Welcome, everyone. This is the University of Winnipeg Master in Management Program, and I'm recording this in December 2023. So today we're going to talk about the first part of igniting your creativity. So my name is Al McLeod. I'm a technologist and innovator, and I work with Dr. Sylvia Albert in the Master in Management Program. Look forward to talking to you today. So we'll start with a brief discussion about imagination, creativity, and innovation. How are they related? How are they different? Then we'll talk about thinking styles, linear versus lateral. We'll talk about developing a creative mindset, creativity skills and habits, and finally, we'll close with a discussion on tools you can use to enhance your creativity. So when we talk about creativity, we have to talk about creativity's relationship to imagination and innovation. The graphic on the left does a good job of describing the relationship. Interest, curiosity, and commitment to a topic at the top of the funnel, impacting imagination, creativity, and innovation. And to the left to right flow from imagination through creativity and leading to innovation. I'm going to paraphrase the late, great Sir Ken Robinson, who gave the most popular TED Talk of all time called Do Schools Kill Creativity? So imagination is the source of our creativity. I created the raccoon courtroom image on this slide after a particularly odd daydreaming episode where I imagined a world where smartphones were 100% AI and were actually subpoenaed to be questioned in court like any human would be. This was provoked by my curiosity about AI and criminal justice and forensics. Imagination can be an entirely private process of internal consciousness. Private imaginings may have no outcomes on the world at all, like my raccoon smartphone courtroom drama vision. But creativity does have an impact. It's the process of having original ideas that have value. It's a process and not an event, and it can be learned. Being creative involves doing something. People are not creative in the abstract. They are creative in something, in math, engineering, writing, comedy, music, or as we'll focus on today, in business. Creativity involves putting your imagination to work. In a sense, creativity is applied imagination. And innovation is the process of putting those creative new ideas into practice. So they get value, so they provide value. Innovation is actually applied creativity. By definition, innovation is always about introducing something new or improved or both. My favorite example is the annual Sprint to Innovate academic event. Karen Cable of Red River College Polytech came up with the idea. She imagined it after discussions with industry leaders. Her vision was to have a large-scale 48-hour student innovation challenge, based on real industry business challenges. The businesses would also be involved in the weekend event. Karen called a group of us together to discuss what we could do to make her vision a reality. After the discussion, I went away and did a few weeks of research and creative thinking on how to pull off such a complex event with so many stakeholders and constraints in a very tight time frame. I talked with creative allies, used mind mapping, lateral thinking, and other tools to develop a unique framework for the event based on Karen's vision. We met again with a larger team, and my novel approach was accepted. The first Sprint to Innovate event was on for 2021. No going back now. Then our team developed and ran the innovation project to make the challenging event happen successfully, from imagination to creative idea to innovative annual event. We're now working on our 4th annual Sprint to Innovate event. So creativity is not just about artists and other creators. It's the ability to create something new using your imagination and experiences. We all have that potential. If you watch most children, they'll play creatively without fear of looking silly, and they can laugh at themselves and each other over their creative antics. But once we enter the school system, we usually start to lose that creativity due to the constant focus on being right and linear or logical thinking. We're often told not to daydream or be silly, and don't get me started about the desire to be perfect. So let's talk about the things you can do to rediscover your creative side and take on the world. So this on the left is a quote by Edward de Bono. He's the father of lateral thinking. To him, it was all about using lateral thinking to shake us out of our existing patterns and think differently. His quote was, "You cannot dig a hole in a different place by digging the same hole deeper." I love that one. So linear or logical thinking is like following a straight path. It's all about using logic, facts, and rules to solve problems that have clear answers, like in math or doing your taxes. You use what you know, take steps one at a time to find the solution. It helps us plan things and follow directions. Lateral thinking is different. It helps when problems are tricky or new, like when making something no one has ever seen before. With lateral thinking, you come up with fresh ideas that can surprise people. Both ways of thinking are important. There's no right or wrong way to think. Our experiences shape how we think. Many times we believe only logic will give us the right answer, so we focus on being correct rather than exploring new ideas. But lateral thinking tries something else. It takes an unusual step on purpose to look at things differently. It's the art of reframing questions, challenging rules, constraints, and assumptions, making creative combinations, taking alternative perspectives, working backwards, and attacking problems sideways. This kind of thinking gives our brains a chance to break out from the usual patterns and create brand new ideas via our creativity. So this is an example of a lateral thinking puzzle. And you can see here, you've got three separate lines. What you're supposed to do is use three separate lines, straight or curved, to join the boxes labeled with letters. A single line for each to join A to A, B to B, and C to C. The lines cannot touch or cross each other. They must stay inside the black lines of the diagram and cannot touch the sides. They cannot touch or go through other boxes. There's no trick involved. So the problem with this puzzle is that we're taught so many things, that A comes before C, A comes before B, and that B comes before C. And so you immediately start to think, okay, so how do I connect the A's together? Then how do I connect the B's? The other one is we're taught also that the straight line is the quickest or the shortest point between two positions. So the answer looks more like this. And it really works easiest if you work from the back forward. But as you can see, you have to really think. You have to throw away some of your existing knowledge to be able to work in these kind of problems. That's what lateral thinking is all about. So creative thinking is a competitive advantage for you as an individual and for any company you work for. Steve Jobs, for example, in 2001, everybody was already talking about the death of retail. Yes, even back then. So what does Jobs do? He launches their very first Apple Store, a step towards analog in the digital world. But Apple did it differently, didn't they? They incorporated open floor plans, beautiful aesthetics, and a Genius Bar to get accessible help from experts. And the one thing Apple did is always think different, for sure. So how do you go about developing a creative mindset? So if you want to develop and unleash your creative side, the first thing you want to do is develop creative confidence. You start by making the decision to be creative and then work to make it happen. Remember, we can all be creative. This is mostly about practicing creativity and learning to deal with your fears. And if you do fail, learn from it. This includes kind of 4 fears: fear of the messy unknown, also known as ambiguity, fear of judgment, fear of taking the first step, and fear of losing control. If you can overcome these fears and you can start to feel a sense of what we call urgent optimism about seeing your creative idea happens, this is a really good feeling, by the way. When you've made a change, you came up with a new idea and you're seeing it implemented. Tom and David Kelly came up with some of these concepts, and they're from the Stanford D School and IDEO, 2 of the leaders in bringing design thinking to where it is today. Curiosity is the burning need to understand why. Great innovators are always curious and are always asking questions. Remember, curiosity fuels the imagination and creativity. Have a growth mindset. This is the right mindset for creativity. People with a growth mindset take on new challenges, learn from feedback and failure, are continuous learners, and put in the work to continually learn and improve. Wouldn't you love to work for a company where everybody was like that? A beginner's mindset is about not letting your expertise get in the way of learning due to your internal biases. This is hard to do, but if you're working on a problem, approach it as if you're new to the problem and take in information. Don't just let all of your existing patterns and thoughts and expertise come to the table, because you will exactly come up with the same ideas you've had in the past. Your passion is your why. It's always easier to work hard on something that you're passionate about. Plus, you'll likely have experience in it as well. Necessity is certainly the mother of invention. Experience a gap in the market during a time of need is a major motivator for many people. You've seen this in Dragon's Den, for example. About every second innovator is talking about how the fact that they had a time of need, couldn't find a product, so they invented something. And also remember the pandemic. Remember, we couldn't work remotely, and then all of a sudden one day we could all work remotely. Wasn't that amazing? You want to seek diverse opinions. The more diverse, the better insights and stimulus you get. The last thing you need is the opinions of people exactly like you. Constructive feedback and alternative viewpoints from people who are different from you can be super helpful. You'll want to enjoy creative experiences with your receptors on. This is about experiencing art, music, travel, hanging out with a diverse group of creative friends, whatever it is that brings out your creative side, while being open to receiving stimulus and insights, being present in the moment. Michelle Romanow is one of my favorite entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you all know her from Dragon's Den. So she's a serial entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and a dragon, of course. She had parents in the petroleum industry, so she developed a passion for environmentalism when she was young. She wanted to start a sustainable coffee shop business called the Tea Room in third-year university at Queen's. The university originally turned her down. She got lots of no's, actually, because they already had contracts with cafes. Michelle pivoted and changed her business model to an education-focused, zero-waste, student-run model within the engineering building that the university pretty much had to accept. The Tea Room is still open today in the engineering building and is integrated into the Queen's University engineering program, allowing engineering students and faculty to gain experience in entrepreneurship that students don't usually get. Now, that's how you follow your passion. Michelle went on to start 5 businesses before her 33rd birthday and become a dragon. Pretty amazing story. One of my favorite entrepreneurs. So now let's talk about the skills and habits that you need to develop in order to become an entrepreneur. So the first one is observing. So here you're looking for gaps in the market, opportunities to provide convenience, unusual types of products, manual systems, workarounds, unusual business models. You're looking for different context, something that you see that could work in a different context, following trends like technology or cultural, for example, sharing economy opportunities, market forces, growing and shrinking customer segments and changing pains for customers, macroeconomic forces like pandemics and wars, inflation, and industry forces, assisting competition, new market entrants, value chain changes, all those kind of things. Jeff Bezos, for example, saw in the media that internet growth was predicted to be 2,300% and decided to found Amazon. A really good idea. Scott Cook saw his wife using spreadsheets to do their personal finances and created Quicken, another great idea. So idea networking is about developing a diverse idea network and collaborating on creative projects with those people. Bridging a gap between networks is really important. So if you look at what network you're in, let's say you're in a Winnipeg technology network, but you really want to actually start to meet people in Kitchener, how do you get your first contact there so that you can actually start to develop an idea network? This isn't about getting jobs or anything like that. This is about people who are actually idea people, building your idea capabilities. And you want to connect to connectors. If you can connect to a connector, you can actually leverage all that work that they do. You want to connect to other industries or markets. So, for example, Clinton D'Souza is an insurance expert in Ontario who, if I need something about insurance when I'm doing some kind of project, he's there. He's always there to help. You can join a creative organization like Creative Mornings and instantly get contacts to lots of creative people. One of my contacts is of Dr. Sylvia Albert at University of Winnipeg. She's a smart cities expert, for example. Rami Nassar from Kitchener-Waterloo is the CEO of 1,000 Days Out. He's a tech futurist and an AI person. So if I have ideas or want ideas in any of those areas, I reach out to collaborate with them. John Ferris is another one. He's the CEO of Envision Edge. And so he's an expert in many of the Manitoba industries because he does strategic planning and innovation with them. So asking open-ended questions is the ability to get insights, stimulus, and stories from people in order to understand their unmet needs. Asking experts questions to satisfy your knowledge gap and your curiosity. Asking stupid questions is important. Everybody thinks, oh, I can't ask that. It's a stupid question. The problem is if you don't ask that question, first of all, I'm sure there's other people who have the same question. Second of all, if you don't ask that question, you'll be missing context. And if later on, if other things are said, you may not understand them because you're missing the basics. So ask those questions. The 5 whys is about going deeper. So if you ask someone a question, they give you an answer, continue to ask why until you get to the heart of the problem. Eric Schmidt, the ex-CEO of Google, said, our company runs on questions, not answers. I think that's a great slogan. Empathy means to observe and listen to customers and stakeholders and to walk in their shoes to understand their point of view, jobs to be done, pains, unmet needs, and emotional desires. Very important skill. Experimenting and testing ideas in order to see what might work is a skill that is, it's going to help you because you can do things quicker and you can do things cheaper in order to find out that things work without building up big products. This could be a prototype, a landing page and an offer, MVP, or other method. Also taking your assumptions, developing hypotheses and testing them. Other ideas will emerge as you experiment as well, by the way. Sarah Blakely of Spanx is known for experimenting with fabrics, designs, packaging, etc. And Dyson Vacuum had 5,000 prototypes for their first model. Jeff Bezos said, our success at Amazon is a function of how many experiments we do per year, per month, per week, and per day. Steve Jobs said, creativity is just connecting things. Well, kind of. I mean, certainly the heart of creativity, coming up with ideas, is often connecting things together. But it's about making those connections and then still moving ahead with something that is brand new. You never just connect things and that's it. You're going to connect them and then you're going to do the work that you need to make your solution work. So this is about making connections using the various Lego blocks you've collected through the other skills and forming ideas from the connections. This is my strongest skill, and I enjoy using it. Connections can be made via analogies and metaphors, force association, odd combinations, or many other methods. Matching supply and demand opportunities, sharing economy like Uber, Airbnb, Skip, etc. Looking for odd combinations like the roller pan and deodorant, putting them together to make roll-on deodorant. Helen Barnett did that in 1952. Still the most popular kind of deodorant. And also, Mike Lazaridis connected wireless and computer together and got BlackBerry. Larry Page connected academic citation and web search and got Google search, one of the most successful ideas of all time. Generative AI is becoming more important as an assistant stack. And prompt engineering has become a key skill. Don't ignore these two categories because it's going to be important for the future. Knowing how and when to use lateral thinking to break out of linear mode is a superpower. This means both as an individual and when you're collaborating with others. Don't ignore your intuition. Don't follow it blindly, but don't ignore it either. It can lead you down creative paths. If it interests you, follow the thread. And Linus Pauling, double Nobel laureate, said, if you want to have good ideas, you must have lots of them. And what all that means is, if you have 2 ideas, you have 2 chances of having a good idea. If you have 100 ideas, you have 100 chances of having a good ideas. So you're automatically going to have more good ideas. This is what venture capitalists do when they look at lots and lots of startups, because they know that of those startups, only a couple will make it. You want to learn. Read, take webinars, listen to podcasts, biographies, trend newsletters. Satya Nadella of Microsoft recently said, we need to be learn-it-alls, not know-it-alls. I love that statement. Sketching, journaling, and mind mapping work in a different part of the brain. So you want to take advantage of that. Try it and see for yourself. These habits can really spark creativity. And you want to develop your own creative process by finding out what works for you. You know, how do you get the stuff that's already in your head kind of out of the way so that you can come up with new ideas? You might write everything down that's in your head, keep track of it and just forget about it once you've written it down. You want to change your environment to a more creative environment. You want to incorporate some kind of ritual, whatever that is. Maybe you use a particular book or a particular computer and you use a particular area. You want to reduce or replace sensory stimuli. What kind of music or no music? What is it that you do that sets you up for a creative environment? Put your phone away. Now, a phone can be part of your creative process, but don't use it. Don't let it grab your attention away. And of course, you want to block a period of time, but not too long. You can't concentrate like this and do this kind of creative work for more than probably somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes. And then you need a break for sure. And the final one is relaxed attention. So relaxed attention is super important. It is one of my favorite things and one of the most important things I do. So you want to do some work on a creative idea, come up with the idea, kind of start to work on it, then leave it and let it simmer in your brain. More ideas will come to you, and those ideas will take form if you relax and let them. I can't overstate how important this is. The brain needs insight, stimulus, and quiet time to do its work. Daydreaming, walking and thinking, strategic use of your snooze alarm to get a few minutes of kind of that kind of partially awake mode. That's where I have a lot of my ideas, by the way. So that's the creativity, skills, and habits. So Starbucks' original store opened in Seattle in 1971. It was on a trip to Milan in 1983 that Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz first experienced Italy's coffee houses. Then he returned to Seattle, inspired to bring the warmth and artistry of its coffee culture to Starbucks. By 1987, they swapped brown aprons for green ones and embarked on the first chapter as a coffee house. This was an observing idea that could work in a different context, connecting two things: Italy, North America, coffee in both places, different coffee experiences. I like this story. The doctors who sought advice from Formula One. So after a different 12-hour pediatric cardiac surgery, two senior doctors were relaxing in the break room. They were really frustrated that even though the surgery went well and the baby was okay, the transfer of the patient to the ICU had gone not well at all. And it wasn't unusual. This was the weak link in the process. So in the break room, they tuned into a Formula One race, and they saw the driver drive into the pit, and then the highly trained team surrounded it. In less than 7 seconds, the car had refueled the car, changed 4 tires, cleared the air intakes, and sent it on its way. They both had the same thought. Why can't hospital staff learn to be as efficient as pit stop teams? So what they did was they used their contacts, and they reached out to several Formula One teams. They went to visit them, watch their work, and vice versa. And then they worked with the Formula One team to create a new set of operating principles and roles and responsibilities, and really improved the patient transfer to ICU process. And that's how healthcare and Formula One racing can work together. Amazing. So let's talk about the tools for creativity. So the first tool is called mind mapping. It's my favorite tool. I'll show you more about that in a minute. LinkedIn for connections. It's a great tool for connections, for your idea connections, and access to great free content these days, especially the new newsletter features. Testing Business Ideas is a great book by David Bland of Strategizer. He explains over 44 different experiments and tests in his book. There's 2 innovation methodologies that we'll talk about quickly. One is innovation engineering, because it's especially strong on the creative side and focuses on lateral thinking. And then design thinking focuses on developing an innovative mindset by tapping into your customers' unmet and even unknown needs using your empathy skills. So tools such as the Lean Canvas, empathy maps, journey maps, and when I say dozens of exercises, I'm not kidding. I'll show you a few today. And P-O, is a lateral thinking word that you can say at any time in an innovation session in order to force a provocative move out of linear mode and into lateral mode. Let's try to shake things up. And of course, there are many, many great sources of information that can support research, insights, and stimulus for creativity. And there's a surprising number of AI tools already available to support the creative process. I'll show you those in a separate second part of this workshop or this training. So mind mapping is my favorite creativity tool. It can be used for anything from planning this presentation to brainstorming sessions and lateral thinking exercises. Mind mapping is valuable because it's a visual exercise, releasing extra creativity, and because the process and format of the tool mimics the way our brain thinks. Another cool benefit is that it can be used effectively in a group setting or on your own. I find I'm always able to spark when I use it in creative mode. So here's what a mind map starts as. And if you look, so what you do is you put the problem to be solved in the middle. So it's how might we make Manitoba Road safer for everyone? And then what you do is you add some level 1 stimulus words to spark ideas. So safe speed, safe drivers, safe vehicles, and safe roads are four different parts of a European-based framework for road safety. Data and AI is another one I added, carrot, stick, and alternative transportation. And finally, I added the word PO, right, which is what we triggers our thinking, lateral thinking mode, and I added a random mode mirror. So then the next step is for each level 1 stimulus node, brainstorm related stimulus and ideas that come to mind. So take each one separately. So each word, so here we got safe roads, and now do a brainstorming exercise around that set of words. So how do we get safer roads? Talk to the team, use technology to enforce traffic rules, put speed bumps in, make far better use of signage, improve road engineering and planning, like that one. Hard barriers between lanes, something they do more in Europe than in our country. And so you can see you end up with lots of different ideas. So when you finish, it looks like this. Messy, isn't it? Just like our brains. There are dozens of ideas on this page. And then you can combine ideas from across level 1 stimulus nodes to make up larger compound ideas and use lateral thinking to force unrelated ideas together. So here we've got a bunch of different ideas, like using nudging behavior under safe drivers. We got use nudging to improve behavior based on driving score, your telematics in your car. Use technology to curb distracted driving. Under the mirror, a lateral thinking word, we've got social media and peer pressure. Under stick, we've got stupid citations, so you get tickets for being stupid, for driving stupid. We've got one here, fees depend on vehicle telematics. So you can see we've got a whole bunch of different ideas, and then what you can do is you can put these together and come up with other ideas. And so here what we've done is my favorite idea is totally unreasonable and is based on one of my favorite Netflix series called Black Mirror. If you drive badly, it will negatively affect your social media scores, which can be seen and leveraged everywhere. Oh boy. But seriously, though, the point is that lateral thinking can help you come up with ideas that might be over the top, like this idea, but they can be scaled back to something that makes more sense. You would never have even had this idea without that the PO random word prompt. So here's another one of my favorites. It's called Lawbreaker. So the objective is to break your natural pattern of order. So here's a company, and they're looking to expand to new markets, and they always expand to new markets the same way. They put in bricks and mortar and they expand there. They hire VPs and sales forces, and they all, build up a whole new company almost in the new market. But what if we expanded via online only and we leveraged the centrally managed team? Or what if we expanded by a combination of partnerships and online? And so the reason that these ideas are now possible is that we've developed some great remote skills during the pandemic, and our central team has stepped up. And if we expand in North America, we have some partnerships we can leverage. So if you look what's happened here, we had a law, we always expand to new markets via bricks and mortar, which didn't even make sense anymore, or which was possible, I should say, to refute, because we actually had established new skills. But if you didn't actually say that, you would just go with the default. We always expand to new markets via bricks and mortar. So here's an analogy. So you can use analogies, as I said before. So step one was you list the problem or conflict. So people don't exercise because it takes a lot of time, right? And then you go through and you find out how to free up time, and you make an analogy of Swift or WestJet. In our case, we're going to look at improving pet healthcare. So people don't go to the vet for small things because they're too busy, but small things might turn out to be important. So how could we make it easier to get simple pet health questions answered? So HealthLinks is an analogy. HealthLinks works for human healthcare. So that's making an analogy to a different system. So we could set up a PetLinks phone and chat service, and we could even add video for nurse practitioners because animal health care is different. There's another one, Crazy Eights. You take a piece of paper, you fold it in 8 pieces, and then someone puts a minute on the clock, and everybody who's doing the exercise in that first minute draws an idea. In this case, I drew a petty chat function. And then what happens is the next minute, draw another one, third minute. And so after 8 minutes, you've drawn 8 ideas. If you have 5 people doing it, you have 40 new ideas. So takeover time is a lot of people like doing this one because you're imagining that your company has been acquired by Apple or Google or Starbucks or something like that. And so based on what you know about the company, how would its influence change your thinking about how you solve the challenge you're working on? So a pro tip is you can use mind mapping to explore the company's attributes. So for Apple, for example, if you said, well, we're taking over by Apple, so what are the attributes of Apple? And you'd mind map out, raving fans, a closed ecosystem, simple but elegant designs. And that's how you would actually then say, okay, take those attributes. How do we apply those to our challenge? Idealized redesign is one about where what you're saying is forget any problems we have. If we want to fix the problem that we're working on without constraints, what would that look like? So the task we're at hand is helping inner city youth become entrepreneurs. So the end state that we want is teach inner city youth entrepreneurial skills in grades 7 to 12 with training and work integrated learning, connecting them with technology, mentors, and other resources. But then we say, okay, so let's look at the constraints that we have, though. We can't make that happen that everybody wants. Well, maybe a lack of budget and bureaucracy, inertia, lack of resources, fear of failure, what I call not my jobism. So then you say, okay, so now let's peel those constraints off. And how could we start? So we could partner with the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, called NFTE, to reduce risk. We could leverage their content, experience, and know-how to develop this idea, starting with a school with a progressive principal in a supportive school division. Brainstorming, well, it can be very successful, but the facilitator matters a lot. So the facilitator has to prepare in advance. They should prepare some insights and stimulus in advance, like what we're going to talk about soon is this thing called a spark deck. You can have lateral thinking exercises ready for when your thinking seems too linear. For example, like lawbreaker or introducing constraints. You can do an icebreaker to warm everyone up and make sure that you explain these rules of brainstorming, like deferring judgment, encouraging wild ideas, etc. Let everyone have a few minutes to quietly come up with ideas on their own, then start to group brainstorm. A lot of people prefer to have some quiet time to come up with ideas before everybody starts talking. Then start to group brainstorm and apply those rules. So innovation engineering is the first methodology I learned. It's a great methodology. It has a method and tool called STIM mining, or for short for stimulus mining. I really like this method. It's to do research across 6 categories. Wisdom, which is academic research, could even be developing a relationship with a faculty, for example, or a research chair. A patent is looking at patents for stimulus. A market is researching your industry and adjacent industries, including looking at other markets, both adjacent and foreign. Insights is doing customer research, whatever research you can get to. Future is about trends and technology, so you can see kind of what might be coming. And then unrelated is lateral thinking support. So you're looking for interesting items that can stimulate thinking that aren't necessarily related to the problem at hand. And that to me is a great way of doing that stimulus researching. And then what the facilitator can do is take each one of these stimulus that you find, and you can package it into what we call a spark deck. And so what you do is you put on each slide, you have a different stimulus, and then you have a number of questions to make people think. And then finally, design thinking is a very popular methodology for innovation. And let's talk a bit about it. Why is it so popular? Well, here's a tagline. Don't fall in love with the solution, fall in love with the problem. So you've got 5 different stages in this process, which isn't linear. It looks linear, but it is iterative. So you can go back and forth from many of these stages. But the recommendation is you go through all 5. So the first thing is you have some kind of a wicked problem you're working on. And then the first thing you do is you go into the problem phase where you empathize and define. Then you go into the solution phase where you ideate, prototype, and test. And then finally, when you would then go to whatever your processes are for developing the solution and releasing it to the world. Because at this point, you have a prototype, right? So this structured design a structured creative problem solving process, the way it works is you begin with empathy. And within empathy, what you're doing is you're really empathizing with your customers and stakeholders and finding out what the root of the problems are and gathering information on the problem area. And you're also doing kind of third-party research, gathering information from the internet or from competitors, even wherever you get your information from. The next step is to take all that information you've gathered here and then reframe the problem by, in the defined stage, you get all this information, you find out what customers really need, and then you define a new problem statement that will be different from this problem statement, usually because you have the information now that the customers need. The next step is to take the problems that you've identified, and you do ideation around it. And ideation is some of the things we talked about, like using brainstorming and rule breaker and coming up with as many as hundreds of ideas to solve your problem. And then the next stage is the prototype. And at that point, you're building a very cheap, very quick solution that can illustrate your problem. It could be a wireframe. It could be a click-through mobile app. It could be a almost anything that can illustrate the problem. It could be a storyboard, etc. So then you take your prototype and you show it, you test it with real customers, and you iterate, right? Because you can do a prototype, customers won't like it, or there'll be problems with it. You go back, and you could go back to define or ideate. And then finally, once you get a solution that people like, you finish it and you go through your process to release it to the world. And so in summary, we're all capable of being creative. The first step is to decide to be creative. I've talked about the mindset, skills, and habits and tools you need to be successful. And so there's no time like the present to get started. And if you want to connect to me to ask more questions, you know where to find me. Our next session will be on using generative AI tools to jumpstart your creativity. Thank you very much.